3 a.m. The night sky over the Moscow region doesn't just light up, it detonates. You are witnessing a terminal kinetic strike on critical infrastructure exactly 120 kilometers east of the Kremlin. This isn't a malfunction or a random accident. This is a calculated, high-precision mission to sever the energy artery of the enemy capital. We aren't talking about a flicker in the grid. We are talking about the total erasure of operational capability for a key power node. The objective is absolute. Shut down the heat, freeze the grid, and prove that no target is safe. 3:12 a.m. The swarm initiates the infiltration phase. You are looking at a flight profile that defies standard interception logic. The drones aren't flying at cruising altitude. They are hugging the deck, executing low-altitude terrain masking that keeps them strictly below the radar floor. They are weaving through the river valleys and skimming the tree lines, effectively invisible to the long-range search radars scanning the horizon. This is the only way to penetrate the Iron Dome protecting the capital region. You don't overpower the sensor grid, you fly underneath it. But as they close the distance to the 120-kilometer mark, they hit the invisible wall, the electronic warfare environment. The airspace around Moscow is saturated with high-intensity jamming signals designed to scramble GPS guidance. A lesser asset would go blind and drift off course immediately, but these munitions are hardened. When the satellite link goes dark, the onboard systems switch to inertial guidance backups. They stop listening to the sky and start calculating distance and velocity with internal accelerometers. This is the difference between a toy and a weapon of war. The enemy is blasting the spectrum with noise, trying to sever the control link, but the strike package is autonomous. It doesn't need a pilot, it just needs a target. 3:28 a.m. The element of surprise evaporates. The Russian air defense network wakes up. The night sky erupts into a chaotic light show of tracer fire and surface-to-air missiles. We are talking about Pantsir S-1 units and S-400 batteries engaging multiple vectors simultaneously. The Defense Ministry reports downing 75 incoming bogies, including assets tracked all the way from the Black Sea. Even Vnukovo Airport is forced to halt flights as the airspace becomes a free-fire zone. You have to understand the scale of this engagement. That number, 75 drones, represents a massive expenditure of defensive interceptors. The sky is literally filled with shrapnel. But here is the brutal truth of the strategy. Those 75 downed drones were never the primary threat. They were the distraction. This is the concept of overmatch. You saturate the defensive tracking channels with more targets than they can process. You force the enemy to deplete their ready racks on cheap, mass-produced airframes, while the Pantsir crews are reloading and the radar computers are struggling to prioritize the swarm. The actual kill vehicles slip through the gaps. It is a calculated sacrifice. You trade volume for penetration. The command center watches the telemetry as the swarm thins out, drone by drone dropping off the board. But the mission doesn't require 100% survival. It requires a 5% success rate on the terminal run. As long as the lead elements cross the final perimeter into the Shatura engagement zone, the defense has failed. The Iron Dome is cracked. The survivors are now inside the wire, and there is nothing left to stop the terminal dive. 3:42 a.m. terminal phase initiated. The surviving assets pitch over and begin their dive on the Shatura power station. This is the moment of absolute clarity. The drones utilize optical terminal homing to identify the specific thermal signature of the transformer array. They aren't aiming for the building. They are aiming for the volatile components that keep the system alive. The impact is not just a collision. It is a detonation delivered with surgical precision into the heart of the electrical infrastructure. 3 primary transformers are struck in rapid succession. The effect is immediate and catastrophic. The warheads breach the casings, igniting the thousands of gallons of cooling oil inside. This isn't a standard fire. This is a thermal runaway event that burns hot enough to warp steel girders and liquefy copper. The explosion vaporizes the operational integrity of the station in seconds. A massive fireball rises into the night sky, visible for miles, signaling the total saturation of the target grid. 3:45 a.m. The cascade failure begins. The town of Shatura plunges into darkness. The hum of the grid dies instantly, replaced by the roar of the inferno consuming the station. But the loss of light is secondary. The critical failure is the loss of heat. Remember, the ambient temperature is freezing. By severing the power, the strike has deactivated the district heating pumps. The 33,000 residents of Shatura are now facing a hard freeze without life support. The local governor is scrambling to deploy mobile heating systems, but the damage is done. The strategic message is being delivered not through a manifesto, but through the biting cold radiating from their radiators. The psychological impact on the enemy command structure is devastating. This strike proves that the war has arrived deep inside the Moscow administrative region. We are talking about a facility founded under Lenin, a historic pillar of their energy sector that shifted from peat to natural gas, now burning out of control just a short drive from the capital. The illusion of safety provided by distance is shattered. The logistical nightmare that follows is the true victory. You cannot simply patch a high-voltage transformer. These are massive, custom-manufactured units that take months to build and install. And how do you bring in heavy replacement equipment when the airspace is contested? Every repair crew that steps onto that site knows they are working in a kill box. The threat of a double-tap strike hangs over the wreckage. This operation demonstrates total strategic dominance. It shows that the enemy cannot protect their own backyard. The air defense network exhausted itself, shooting down decoys while the real damage was done to the critical nodes. The smoke clears to reveal a broken grid and a frozen town, but the strategic reality is permanent. If you can hit Shatura, you can hit anything. The mission is absolute. The objective was secured. The enemy's grid is shattered, and their sense of security is vaporized. This proves that precision beats mass every time. Strategic reach determines the victor, not static defenses. If you want to decode the next phase of this conflict, you need to be briefed on the evolving battlefield right now. Subscribe to stay ahead of the curve. The mission never stops. Total dominance is the only acceptable option. It's game over.